Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video we'll talk about one of Kubo's answers regarding Zangetsu Engetsu. Can any parent-child relationship give us the same similarity of techniques that we've seen with Isshin and Ichigo? So we will dive together into the distinctive Shinigami families and how blood ties have an important role in the formation of their genetic abilities and how it transmitted from generation to generation. So for this fan, his or her question was as follows. If there were a parent-child relationship like that of Isshin and Ichigo, would they have similarities in abilities and Zanpakuto techniques? So Kubo's answer was as follows, and as a PS I only relied on Google Translation, but I will try to explain what I understood from the answer. So he said that the matter is not limited only to the fact that there is a parent-child relationship, but rather there are several similarities due to blood ties. Of course, Kubo's answer accepts several interpretations. For example, in the first half of the answer, he confirms that the paternity relationship may play a role in the similarity of techniques. Perhaps the most prominent example is Isshin and Ichigo. They have a Zanpakuto link to the name of the moon. Isshin has Engetsu and Ichigo has Zangetsu, and they both use the same technique, which is the Getsuga Tensho. As for the second half of Kubo's answer, we can understood from it that the condition of paternity is not necessary. What is important is the blood relationship that binds two persons. For example, if there is another person from Shiba family and he's a Shinigami too, and I'm talking here about a person other than Kaien. So this person X may have also a Zanpakuto with a name linked to the moon. It may be a Zanpakuto with a unique technique and characteristics, such as Isshin's Zanpakuto, which is a fire type Zanpakuto and completely different from Ichigo's Zanpakuto. But there is a link that brings them together, which is the name of the moon, as well as the technique of Getsuga Tensho. However, I think the whole answer of Kubo is comprehensive, that if we combine the issue of paternity plus blood ties, it might give us another perception of the importance of noble blood in Bleach, especially the blood of noble Shinigami, and we have the example of the Shiba family. And whoever reads Bleach, the manga and the novels, will find that the noble families within Seireichi have special advantages over others, meaning that you may find a family that is distinguished in Kido and Sword Art, and therefore some of its members are born with a special challenge over others in using that special art that is associated with their families, especially mentioning here the family of Azashiro Soya. It was mentioned in the novel that this family, before it sank into corruption, was known for its excellence in the use of Kido, and this may explain how Azashiro Soya, without entering to the academy, was able to use several types of Kido of high level with ease. And if we come to Kyorako family, this family is considered one of the most ancient families in martial arts. So there is also the Issei family that Nanaus belongs to. It was known that they did not possess Zanpakuto, and here is where the blood point appears. Nanao tried hard to obtain her Zanpakuto by training with Asauchi, but with no avail, because that thing is related to her bloodline, and all the members of her family shared that point. Of course, now I only mentioned some ordinary nobles families. What about the 5 great noble families? Surely these families have secrets and weapons that we don't know, and more than that, they have techniques that have something to do with their bloodline, so that these techniques are passed on generation after generation, meaning, for example, Isshin heard from his father or someone from the Shiba family about the final Getsuga Tensho technique, and meaning it is possible that throughout the history of the Shiba family, there were several members who possessed a Zanpakuto that had a name that has something to do with the moon. And for example, if we got this family line and we trace it back, will lead us to Shiba's ancestor, and the first ancestor, who was one of the 5 people responsible for dividing the original world with the help of Ryu's power. And Shiba's ancestor possesses a special power and was even looking for a special technique to replace Ryu. And as you have seen, I mentioned the example of the final Getsuga Tensho that Isshin told to his son Ichigo. But there are other techniques that Kubo confirmed are related to Shiba family, like the technique that Ganjo used in the Soul Society arc in front of Yumichika. So this fan raised the possibility that it could be a full-bring power, and Kubo replied that's not the case, but it's a technique related to Shiba family, meaning that this technique is one of the secrets of the Shiba family techniques that are passed down from generation to generation. Of course, there is an important aspect that is related to Kubo's answer, which is bloodline, and I mean here the inherited abilities. For example, Isshin didn't teach Ichigo how to become a Shinigami, but Kisuke did, and Kisuke wasn't the one who told Ichigo the name of his Zanpakuto, but Ichigo knew it with the help of the Osan Zangetsu, and he's the one who told him the name, which is Zangetsu. And then he taught him the Getsuga technique. But because of the blood that they share with his father Isshin, and we're talking here about Chiba, all of these are factors that made Ichigo obtain a Zanpakuto linked to the moon, as well as having a technique similar to his father, Getsuga. And this leads us to talk about Kazue, Ichigo's son. Kazue also carries the blood of Shiba in his veins, and therefore all those genetic characteristics that distinguish the Shinigami of that family will be transferred to him, including how his Zanpakuto will be. Unfortunately, we saw Kazue's Zanpakuto only once, and this was in chapter 686. But from that look, there were some indications that Kazue's Zanpakuto would have some similarities, whether with his father Ichigo or his grandfather Isshin, or any other features that distinguishes Shiba. The first of these similarities that we notice is the shape of the sword hilt. It is exactly the same of Ichigo's old Bankai. Thus, the name of Kazue's Zanpakuto might even be related to the moon also. I'm not saying that it will be an inevitable thing, but it is possible that Kazue will have a Zanpakuto that also bears a name associated with the moon. And it is possible that even the Getsuga technique. But all these similarities will be within a new style that will distinguish Kazue, given that Ichigo is not a complete Shinigami, but rather a hybrid of several strengths. And if we go back to the question of the fan, he mentioned the issue of if there was a father and son relationship, would there be similarities in the Zanpakuto or not? Unfortunately, there are no other clear examples that shows these things, other than Isshin and Ichigo. For example, we saw Byakuya's grandfather Ginri in the manga, but we don't know the name of his Zanpakuto or his techniques. We even have the name of Byakuya's father, and we know that he was a vice captain, but he was killed. And so, for example, if we could know the Zanpakuto of these characters, we might see some similarities with Senbonzakura. And I mentioned here the example of Genri and his son and Byakuya because they all belong to a great noble family, which is the Kuchiki. And we have another example, which is the Shohin. We know from the beginning of the story that Shohin fights, that Yurichi fights using the Hakuda, and does not depend on her Zanpakuto, and even though she has one, and she prefers to use Shinko with Thunder, while her brother was appeared in the final arc and he was also using Shinko but with Fire type. And therefore this can give you a deep look at how such family are distinguished, whether with their own martial arts as well as some secrets that are only available to others. And as another example, we recently learned from Kubo's answer that Yurichi is not the only one capable of transforming into a cat, but rather this thing is related to the blood of the Shohin family. That blood makes them able to transform into a kind of animal for a certain period of time. So guys, what about you? Tell me your opinion about Kubo's answers, and see you guys in my next video.